passed on, we're grieving for ourselves,
Mhm,
right? Because we miss them.
mhm.
Something you long believed to be true but realized wasn't.
Well, as one of the main opponents of the Illuminati, I always wanted to know what information they had that we did.
I was in the hospital with my grandfather, and I literally watched him take his last breath.
He wasn't chasing viral moments. He didn't get caught up in scandals. He wasn't showing off luxury cars, private jets, or designer fits on social media. Malcolm Jamal Warner was quiet, but that quiet was powerful. And now, he's gone, just like that. On July 20th, 2025, the world lost an icon. But not the kind of icon Hollywood rushes to spotlight. The kind of icon they'd rather forget until they can repackage his image for clout. A man who rejected the spotlight, who refused to play the fool, and who chose to walk his own path, even when that meant walking alone. They say he drowned in Costa Rica, a tragic accident. But what really happened? Not just in those final moments, but in the years leading up to it. Because this wasn't just a story about a man. It's a story about the machine that eats its own, about the rules no one talks about, and about the price of saying no in an industry built on control. And no one has been more vocal about that price than Katt Williams. It was supposed to be a family vacation, a break from the noise, a time to reconnect with his daughter, away from the chaos of the industry. They were in Limon, Costa Rica, a lush tropical escape known for its stunning beaches and dangerous rip currents. Malcolm was swimming with his 8-year-old daughter when the current pulled them both under. Nearby surfers noticed the struggle. One jumped in and managed to save the little girl. Another tried desperately to reach Malcolm, but the ocean had already done its damage. By the time emergency responders arrived, Malcolm was gone. The autopsy confirmed accidental drowning. But was that where the story really started? Or was this just the final chapter in a life that had been quietly erased long before the waves took him? Within hours of the news breaking, social media exploded with tributes. Fellow actors, musicians, networks, even award shows, all singing his praises. Legend, trailblazer, icon. But where were they when he was still here? It's always the same. They ignore you when you're alive. They erase you when you stand firm, but the moment you're gone, suddenly you're safe enough to mourn. Suddenly your truth doesn't scare them anymore. Suddenly your face is worth money. Why does it always take death for the industry to remember its real ones? For years, people called Katt Williams paranoid, bitter, even unstable. But when you really listen to what he's been saying, the message is chillingly consistent. If you don't play the Hollywood game, especially if you're a black man, they will erase you. Katt didn't just talk about the Illuminati to sound edgy. He was pointing to a system of control, a pattern. He spoke about humiliation rituals, about how they expect black men to dress as women, act like fools, or become caricatures of themselves just to stay visible. He said it plainly. If you wear the dress, they reward you. If you don't, they punish you. Sound familiar? Because when you look at Malcolm's choices, the parallels become undeniable. After The Cosby Show, Malcolm could have gone the easy route. Signed on for big studio comedies, played the sidekick, put on the wig, taken the clown role. That's what the industry wanted, another black actor to make white audiences laugh without challenging them. But Malcolm wasn't here for that. He turned down roles that made black men look foolish. He refused to lean into stereotypes. He didn't want to be the token or the fool. He wanted to portray intelligent, complex, real black men. And Hollywood, they weren't having it. Agents told him he was too serious, that he didn't have the range for mainstream comedy. Studios said he wasn't bankable. But what they really meant was, you won't play our game. Let's break it down. After Theo Huxtable, Malcolm could have done what so many of his peers did, pivot into over-the-top comedy roles, slapstick sitcoms, or urban films full of stereotypes. He had the fame, he had the name, but he didn't sell out. Instead, he starred in indie projects, stage plays and documentaries that told powerful stories about black life. He produced short films that explored identity and injustice. He made music, real music, that earned him a Grammy, not just a feature on someone else's record. And he launched a podcast, Not All Hood, where he dismantled the myth that all black people are the same. He knew the risks, but he didn't flinch. Malcolm wasn't just an entertainer. He was a thinker, a speaker, a father, a man who led by example. He often talked about fatherhood with a softness and honesty you rarely hear from celebrities. He said becoming a girl dad changed him, made him more gentle, more reflective. He didn't run from responsibility, he embraced it. He was also one of the rare Hollywood stars who stayed married, never divorced, never scandal-ridden. He didn't get caught up in the mess. He didn't chase clout. He chose peace. And while the industry ignored him, he kept speaking up. Whether it was on social media, podcasts, or in interviews, he kept calling out what needed to be said, even if no one was listening. In 2021, Malcolm published an op-ed that made waves. Not because the media celebrated it, but because it told the truth they didn't want to hear. He called out how white executives, directors, and producers are still the ones controlling black stories on screen. He said even when the gate loosens, even when they let black creatives in the room, the stereotypes still survive. Why? Because control never left the hands of the system. He challenged Hollywood to stop presenting blackness as a single narrative, poverty, violence, or comedy. He said, "We are not all hood," and he meant it. But speaking that truth, it didn't get him a new role. It didn't get him a Netflix deal, it got him silence. Malcolm didn't stop at film and TV. He went after the music industry too. He openly criticized modern hip-hop, not because he didn't love the art, but because he saw how far it had strayed. He said the constant use of misogynistic lyrics, glorification of violence, and casual use of the N-word wasn't empowering, it was damaging. He even said he had to stop listening to J. Cole at one point, not because Cole wasn't brilliant, but because the language didn't match the message. That's how high Malcolm's standards were, not just for himself and him, but for the culture. And when the Kendrick versus Drake beef broke the internet, Malcolm was one of the few voices who didn't just vibe with the tracks. He asked the deeper question, why do we only pay attention when it's violent? So let's come back to Katt Williams. When he talked about rituals, people laughed, but listen closer. He wasn't just talking about secret cults in back rooms. He was talking about humiliation, about compliance, about the fact that so many black entertainers who made it to the top had to go through the same strange gauntlet. Put on a dress, do the clown act, play the fool, and when someone like Dave Chappelle refused, he vanished. When Katt said no, he got labeled unstable. When Malcolm refused to play along, they called him difficult and quietly benched him. It's a system, and it works, because people don't talk about it until it's too late. So let's come back to Katt Williams. When he talked about rituals, people laughed, but listen closer. He wasn't just talking about secret cults in back rooms. He was talking about humiliation, about compliance, about the fact that so many black entertainers who made it to the top had to go through the same strange gauntlet. Put on a dress, do the clown act, play the fool, and when someone like Dave Chappelle refused, he vanished. When Katt said no, he got labeled unstable. When Malcolm refused to play along, they called him difficult and quietly benched him. It's a system, and it works, because people don't talk about it until it's too late. We've seen this before, over and over. Nipsey Hussle, a rapper, entrepreneur, and activist, gunned down. Only then did the Grammys finally nominate him. Only then did brands and politicians begin quoting him. Kobe Bryant, beloved by millions, but only after retirement did many acknowledge the scope of his discipline, mindset, and impact off the court. Tupac, vilified when he was alive, too loud, too radical. But now, his face is everywhere. His quotes are printed on corporate t-shirts. And now Malcolm, a man who never sold out, who refused to conform, who said no when it was easier to say yes. While he lived, he was too real, too honest, too firm in his values. But now that he's gone, he's perfect for brand-friendly repackaging. That's the trick. You don't get your flowers while you're alive, unless you play by the rules. The real ones don't get remembered until they're gone. Despite being quietly shut out of the spotlight, Malcolm never stopped working. He built a career on principle, A life that showed you could still create, still thrive without selling your soul. He wasn't loud, but he was intentional. And now, people are scrambling to align with his image. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of them didn't support him when it mattered. His podcast had loyal listeners but no corporate sponsors. His independent projects had meaning but little media attention. His op-eds had insight but no amplification. Now suddenly, every network wants to license his work. Now they're all talking about Malcolm's wisdom and unreleased projects. Not because they finally see him, but because now it's good for business. Katt wasn't just ranting about dresses and rituals to stir up drama. He was documenting the game in real time. He said, they only let you shine if they control how you shine. And he was right. They'll hand you the spotlight, but only if they control the script. If you dare to challenge the narrative, speak out against the system, or uplift your people without making a mockery of them, they'll cancel your show, blacklist your name, and erase your work. But the second you die, now you're a product, a logo, a hashtag, and that's what's happening to Malcolm. Let's talk about who's missing from Hollywood's highest tables. Dave Chappelle walked away from $50 million when they tried to turn his show into something he couldn't stand behind. Katt Williams refused to wear the dress and ended up labeled crazy. Mos Def, Yasin Bey, left the country rather than play into the industry's machine. Malcolm Jamal Warner turned down the clown roles and was never asked back. See the pattern? They don't hate you for being black. They hate you for being black and free. Let's be honest. Malcolm could have been way richer. He could have had his own show, a sitcom deal, movie roles galore. He had the looks, he had the name, he had the connections. But he chose something else. He chose to represent black men with depth and dignity. He chose art that meant something. He chose projects that didn't make him a joke, and that choice came at a cost. Less visibility, fewer roles, quiet blackballing. But in exchange, he got something no studio could give him. Peace, legacy, purpose. A daughter who looked up to him. A body of work that didn't make him cringe when he looked back. Malcolm didn't just live well. He died with his integrity intact. And in Hollywood, that's rare. You ever wonder why the loudest tributes only come after someone's gone? It's because giving someone their flowers while they're alive means acknowledging what they stood for. And if what they stood for challenged the system, then silence is easier, safer, more profitable. That's the sad truth about Malcolm Jamal Warner's death. He didn't die with scandal on his name. He didn't overdose. He wasn't caught in some dark web of controversy. He died in paradise, doing what he always did, trying to be a present father, living quietly, loving loudly. But that kind of man, a secure black man who rejects stereotypes and dares to speak truth, is dangerous to the Hollywood machine. Not because he's violent, but because he can't be controlled. And when they can't control you, they'll ignore you. Now they're trying to rewrite his legacy, make him palatable for the masses. Gloss over the fact that they ghosted him. Pretend they always admired him. Streaming services will re-release his old work. Magazines will do retrospectives. Social media accounts will post nostalgic clips of him as Theo, smiling and safe. But the real Malcolm, the one who challenged the industry, who criticized the media, who called for cultural accountability, that version gets buried because it's not marketable. It's the same playbook they've used for years. Flatten the complexity, sand off the edges, package the man, not the message. But if we're going to remember Malcolm, we need to remember all of him. Malcolm wasn't loud. He wasn't messy. He wasn't chasing viral clips or begging for attention. He moved differently. And in that silence, there was power. He taught us that you don't need to sell your soul to succeed, that you can be principled, thoughtful, and real, even if the world tries to push you out. He reminded us that fatherhood isn't just a title. It's a lifestyle, that love doesn't require attention, that art can uplift, not just entertain. But most importantly, he reminded us that it's okay to say no, even if it costs you everything, because sometimes the only way to stay yourself is to walk away from what everyone else calls success. For years, people clowned Katt Williams, said he was just bitter, just ranting, just mad he wasn't mainstream anymore. But one by one, his predictions keep coming true. The ritual, the control, the way the industry loves you when you perform and forgets you when you don't. He warned us that black entertainers who don't play the fool will be mocked, marginalized, or erased. And now, Malcolm is the latest name in that long, quiet list. Katt once said, "You can fool yourself into thinking there's no ritual, but the evidence is always there." And now that evidence has a name. Malcolm Jamal Warner. So here's the real question. Why do we wait? Why do we wait until our artists, our voices, our leaders are gone before we say, "Oh, hey, you mattered"? Why do we only celebrate integrity after it's silent? We owe Malcolm more than a trending topic. We owe him the truth. And that means holding the industry accountable, not just for what they did to him, but what they keep doing to every voice that dares to speak up without a script in hand. So the next time you see someone walking their own path, not chasing clout, not playing the fool, give them their flowers now, while they're still here to feel them. Malcolm Jamal Warner wasn't a Hollywood puppet. He wasn't a product. He wasn't a gimmick. He was a man, a real one. He walked in purpose, not popularity. He said no when others said yes. He chose impact over applause, and for that he was sidelined. But you can't silence realness forever, because now, even in death, his legacy is louder than ever. Not because they finally see him, but because the truth always finds a way through. So to those watching, we ask, was Malcolm pushed out for refusing to play the game? Why does it take death for real ones to get recognition? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Because if we don't speak up now, they'll just keep rewriting the script.